coming in!
I'm gonna wait to put the towel down. Like, the water's running.
Just like that. So this thing weighs, I'm not even making this up, a lot. And it sits out on the corner and it went right there. Look, it just blew right through the trailer too. Holy twirl. Look at it out there.
My name is Graham Sucha, and I'm going to be your MC for the 16th Annual Cyber Summit, which I believe is the largest one yet. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. Brian Aspinall is an award-winning educator, best-selling author, public speaker, a celebrated STEM innovator. He is the CEO and co-founder of Codebreaker, a company whose mission is to help teachers harness computer technologies as a means for promoting student engagement and success. Brian, welcome.
Good morning, friends. How is everybody? I have to break the ice. It's my job. How is everybody? Not buying it. If I was in Ontario, just saying, we'd be jumping, singing. Can we do a switch over to my slide deck? Oh, he's already on it. I should stop telling IT what to do. This is usually when I pick the first kid in my front row, right in my classroom, like I need you to go and fix my slides. Right now. Yeah, I have a degree in computer science, but I don't know a thing about computer science anymore. My name is Brian Aspinall. I'm an educator. Well, once upon a time, I'm still an educator. Once an educator, always an educator. I do still teach. I teach at the Faculty of Ed at 2 campuses in the province of Ontario. Wouldn't you know, I teach the tech courses to current existing teachers. I took a leave of absence from my classroom a few years ago when my world kind of blew up. When you go into computer science at the turn of a century, and then decide to go into education, and then you follow Obama when he dumps $300 billion into computer science education in the United States, and then Justin Trudeau drops $50 million in computer science education in Canada, you kind of get forced out of your classroom. So that's why I'm standing here in front of you today. That's what happened to me, my long journey in my classroom. You know, we teach to our strengths. I promise not to be the third technology glitch before 10 a.m. My name is Brian Aspinall. I am the founder of Codebreaker Inc. I've been doing consulting work in the computer science education space for the better part of 2 decades now, not because I'm progressive in any way, but because I have an undergrad in computer science, which means 90% of that is math education, right? So I started using coding as a means to teach math very early in my career because I didn't know how to teach math, let's be honest. It was a very play-based approach. And what I learned early on at the turn of the century is there were a lot of parents that didn't like that. My niche in grade 7 and grade 8, that's where they leave you alone. See, in Ontario, you know, that standardized testing stuff that I won't bash too much today. We do that in grade 6 where I'm from, and we do that in grade 9 where I'm from. So as a grade 7 and 8 teacher, my job is to keep them out of the office, right? That's it. Some parents you talk to will tell you my job is to teach them for high school, and I don't like that, and we'll talk about that in a second. This is what a 10-hour playlist looked like in 1995. How many of you remember 1995? Raise your hand. I see some familiar faces. How are you? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, it's quite a time to be alive. How many of you joined and quit Columbia House 15 times like I did? Yeah, if you know that photo on the left, if you're like, that was me, you're probably going to the retirement workshops right now. If you were the person like me that was buying the CDs, you were in your early 20s, I suppose, at the turn of the century. We thought we were outsmarting the system. Do you remember those days? What a time to be alive, right? Don't talk to people on the internet. I was studying computer science at the University of Windsor, where I had to hand in code over Telnet on dial-up. If you have any idea what I'm saying, that's really hard to do. And if my brother picked up the phone, I'd strangle him with the phone cord because our phones recorded. Back in the day, I'm going to let the soundbite finish because it's just as bad today as it was in 1995. But boy, times have changed. Shut it off. My uncle was working for a mining company in Northern Ontario. He was a math guy, so they made him head of the IT department because he was like, I'm the only one that can turn on a computer. So he got a promotion. That's the way it was. That's the time. I said, what are you going to do on New Year's Eve? His job was to write code to make sure the system clock didn't roll over to 1900, right? 1999 to 1900. So what does New Year's Day look like for you? He said, a massive hangover. Unemployed or a promotion, time will tell, we'll see. But I was really enthralled with that because I was going to school where deadlines were like Friday at 3, and his job was like, no, 11:59 on December 31st, 1999 is my deadline, and I don't get a second chance. That was inspiring to me. We were also looking at Napster and LimeWire. Do you remember those days? Me and my buddies pooled all our money together to buy a CD burner. We were the coolest kids in high school. My entrepreneur journey started when I was 15 selling bootleg audio. It was a gray area. Do you remember those days? But we do have these two apps to thank for the iDevices we have today. Let me back it up. I want to thank the two kids that couldn't afford to buy a CD who created Napster to solve their own problem for the iDevices we have today. Do you remember when Metallica sued the crap out of Napster? Those of you who are nodding, you're my age or a little bit older. Metallica sued the crap out of them. They were young kids, honestly, who couldn't afford to buy a CD, so they pooled their resources, wrote some code. You buy an album, you buy an album, you buy an album, we're going to share the 3 albums. Now I get 3 albums for the price of 1. Metallica says, we don't like this. Nothing else matters. That wasn't scripted. I lost my train of thought. So, as a result, Steve Jobs says, I have the solution. I'm going to solve your problem so you stop suing these poor kids who can't afford to buy an album. I'm going to make it so you can buy 1 song. How does that sound? The whole world's like, this is brilliant. I don't have to buy a whole album now. He says, no, you can buy 1 song. How do you like that for $1? This is fantastic. What do I need to do? Buy my $300 music player. And we all did, right? Here we are today. We literally message people on the internet, and we get in their car. Boy, times have changed from what my teachers were teaching me. We literally message people on the internet. We go sleep at your house. You know, Airbnb and Uber, I'm too far from my device. Airbnb and Uber are 2 of the biggest companies in the world, and they don't sell their own product or service. Let's think about this. As a classroom educator, I've always heard the narrative of making my classroom feel like Starbucks. What does that mean? There's a mobile order thing over there. This person's mad because they didn't get a thing. There's no lid over there. How do we create the culture in our classrooms where we empower our people to go out and chase greatness? I still don't have the answer to this. And in my 20 years in education, my experience with the number 1 barrier is the grading narrative. And we could talk till we're blue in the face around that, but we're all industry people here, sitting here preaching, trying new things, taking risks, learning from failure. Nobody wants to do that because our kids go to school in a system in which failure is punished. If you don't get the grade, especially as we go up through the grades, we ask our young people to repeat a process, but we don't change a damn thing, right? The definition of insanity. We ask our young people to just go again, but we don't change anything. You know, they fail, they have to stay in at recess, repeat a... Who wants to take a risk and think outside the box when all of our assessment evaluates inside the box thinking? So how do we create these cultures where we empower our people to go and chase greatness? If I want to drive Uber today, I go monetize. If I want to take the day off, I can. Uber doesn't care. They have set the parameters, right? They've got the insurance and the liability and all the scaffolds to make their people successful. That's what I want my classroom to look like. And it dawned on me a long time ago that we all do really, really innovative things in our classrooms. Raise your hand if you recognize this as Scratch. First, for my own diagnostic, hands up high, so I know how many of you know what Scratch is. I still have to ask that. 5 years ago, if I asked, no hands went up. That's how quickly things are changing in the education space. When I started teaching, I used to get all these worksheets on the first day of school. Today we're going to learn about each other with an icebreaker called 2 Truths and a Lie. Do you know the game? I was bored out of my mind after year 5, handing these out on the first day, trying to think on my own, what lies am I going to come up with this year that they're going to think is hilarious? And then all of a sudden, one year, I was like, you're a dummy. Which I say to myself, what? You're a dummy. Why are your kids not creating a game of 2 truths and a lie and scratch? Why are you handing them the worksheet that you've been using time after time after time when we have all of these devices? And I thought, I don't know, Brian. I don't know why I haven't been doing this. But when I sat down to finally implement 2 truths and a lie on the first day of school in year 6, there's a plethora of curriculum connections in there. As you know, we have to select stuff. So we're into Boolean algebra, we're into conditional logic, we're learning about variables. We're doing all the things I learned about when I was getting my computer science degree on the first day of school while playing 2 truths and a lie, which is something I've always done in my classroom. But I get to do diagnostic now. First day of school, I get to talk about the cat's position on that grid. We're going to hit all of my grade 7 geometry on the first day of school while exploring a game of 2 truths and a lie that I've always done in my classroom with a worksheet. So now I use what I've always done as a tool for diagnostic on the first day of school in my classroom. Let's talk about my classroom experience. Anybody here a classroom teacher, school leader? Are we all in the ed tech space? Or we're like, I don't want to tell you because my principal doesn't know where I am today. Which is it, Kirsten Thompson? She's like, I got here at noon yesterday, but I posted on socials that I got in like 9 last night, so the folks back in Manitoba. Way to call her out, right? I was coaching the senior boys basketball team, one of my last years as an educator, and our season is in January. And I don't have to tell you what January looks like in Canada. I remember driving a Mazda B4000 pickup truck, rear-wheel drive, 300,000 kilometers, changes its own oil. Sweet machine. I remember saying to my wife, honey, I'm going to put sandbags in the back at Canadian Thanksgiving. I said it every year. Then American Thanksgiving would roll around. I hadn't done it yet. I live just outside Detroit. I'm quite Americanized for a Canadian. American Thanksgiving would roll around. I hadn't done that yet. So driving this thing in the winter and the snow is absolutely treacherous. If you've ever coached a sports team, you know that when basketball practice is done at 5, you can count on at least 3 students still being there at 8 o'clock at night. And I remember saying to Gavin, do your parents know what time basketball was done? He was like, yeah, Mr. A, they know it's done at 5. Well, why are you still here at 7? I want to get home. My wife texts me, says the roads are bad, the roads are bad. Finally, the kid gets picked up. I jump in the truck, and I'm heading home, driving straight down the middle of the road. It's snow everywhere. It's Armageddon. I'm doing 78 kilometers an hour. I pull in behind her. She's also an educator with an earlier bell time than mine. That's really important. I parked behind her. We had a single-lane driveway at the time. And I was in a hurry, so I made a mistake. Which is quite ironic, right? The educator in me is always saying to students, were you taking your time? Did you just try and get to art? Were you in a hurry for recess? Take your time, slow down. I made a mistake. I locked the keys in the truck. I only have 1 set of keys. This is very problematic. Parked behind her in Snowmageddon when her bell time before mine is earlier the next morning. What in the heck am I going to do? I went in the house and said, honey, I have a problem. She said, I know. No, you don't understand. I didn't put you never put sandbags in. I remind you at Halloween, but no. American Thanksgiving comes around. What am I going to do? She looked at me, she said, solve the problem. So don't teacher talk me. See, here's the thing. She's also a grade 7 and 8 teacher. So her and I go all these in-service days, risk-taking, make kids try new things. And we roll our eyes like, sure. And then write the report card. Like, well, teach to the test, you know. But it didn't surprise me that she said solve the problem, because as a grade 7 and 8 teacher, her and I have always spent September trying to unravel the damage that was done at the end of grade 6. Right? We give kids candy, tell them to sit quietly for 100 minutes, make them do their standardized test. We take all the scaffolds down that we spent the entire year building. We put the technology away that we've told them all to use all year long, and then we make them write this test. Performance-based, isolated event. Didn't surprise me that she said, solve the problem. I sat down on the couch and I thought, inquiry is a big buzzword. What would my students do? Hey, folks, I locked the keys in the truck in the school parking lot. It's January. I only have 1 set. How am I going to solve this problem? I want you to think like a 13, 14-year-old. What are they going to say to me? spot on. They're all going to say, break the window. And I'm going to say, you're on drugs because it's January in Canada. I am not doing that. What's the second thing they're going to say? Don't say ask ChatGPT. But that's the era in which we live, right? They're going to say, Google it. So I got on the computer and I binged how to break into a Mazda B4000 pickup truck. Does anybody bing? Is Microsoft a sponsor? No. Wonderful. So I was recently in Seattle giving this talk, and they promised me a tour of the Minecraft facility. And I was at this point, and I was like, that morning, I'm like, I have to get rid of that Google slide or they won't invite me to the Minecraft facility. So that morning I swapped it out. I got to this part. I said, how many of you bing? Just like this. But we're going to spend money on AI and put it in Bing, right? Crickets. So none of you actually use your own product? And as I said that, I noticed as I tried to lock eyes on the Microsoft employees that they all got down on their iPhones. I love every Microsoft product they've purchased. But the ones they create, oh, well, what happened to Skype? Were we all Skype users until a pandemic? What happened there? Now it's like Zoom. If you don't Zoom, I binged how to break into a Mazda B4000 pickup truck, and I learned a lot of things as a byproduct of this. Number one, I don't drive a Mazda B4000 pickup truck. Did you know that? It actually says under the hood, Ford Motor Company, Detroit, Michigan, and I'm the moron that spent more money on the Mazda so I could put Zoom Zoom on the back. Did you know that? Under the hood, under the surface, it's exactly a Ford Ranger. They sold the rights to Mazda. Mazda puts their own clothes on it, charges 10 grand more, and sells it out the door. That's a true story. I learned there's a whole series of videos on how to break into a Mazda B4000 pickup truck, based on make, based on model, based on color. But this video, I'm sitting there in the dark. My wife's hangry. She's mad at me. It's pitch black. It's snowmageddon outside. I'm on the couch. I realized I'm a part of a much larger community.
On toward the door mechanism.
Door lock.
Door lock.
Put your feet
the
back.
lock mechanism. And you can see it moving.
It's my favorite part because all the eyes are like, it's gonna do it. Listen, I wouldn't have showed you the video if it doesn't. Like, think about this. Save me $300 on a call to CAA, you 17-year-old genius. And voila. Voila.
And you're open.
Wait for the next step.
And don't do that again.
Oh, don't do that again. I have shown this video dozens of times over the years, and what I love about it is it's a procedure. We explicitly teach procedural writing in all of our English classrooms, and now we explicitly do procedural writing in the form of unplugged coding. It's taken the globe by storm, right? Procedural writing is moving a robot from point A to point B, just like a recipe, just like making craft dinner, just like breaking into your vehicle. I remember seeing this on YouTube, and I was like, we do procedural writing? None of my grade 8s hand me in anything that doesn't have spelling mistakes. And I'm going back before cloud computing. We're going back to when my students used to actually handwrite procedures around 2006, 2007. And I remember driving home one day with a stack of them. Procedures, procedural writing. There's not a lot of critical thinking that goes into that. Don't get me wrong, it's important to teach the form of writing. But when I look at the assessment part, the achievement chart, where does critical thinking lie in writing a procedure about a task they've already done? I don't know. But these kids, they put it out in media. I have a media curriculum. Weird. And then they told me how to do it with their words. I have an oral communication curriculum too. I'll stand up here and tell you I've inflated the grades. It keeps parents from calling me. What's the difference between an 81 and a 99 where I'm from? Nothing. Doesn't mean a thing. In grade 8, it means nothing. Right? So why do we do it and put all that pressure on our kids? Why? Doesn't mean anything. These kids did it in media, did it in oral, and wrote it in the YouTube channel. Oh my goodness, how many spelling mistakes do you think were in that form of writing on YouTube? None, because it was published authentically, right? At the bottom of the procedure, it said on YouTube to almost 200,000 people, you should be able to do this in 30 seconds flat. I have a bit of an ego. So I said to my wife, honey, I got this. I grabbed my phone as a timer and I went outside. Guess my first score. This is where you throw out an arbitrary number. 2 minutes, 5 minutes. There was an educator from Toronto once that was like 3 hours. It's fucking January, okay, in Ontario. My first score was 42 seconds, and I wasn't happy with that, so I locked my keys back in the truck.